I still remember that evening like it happened just a few hours ago. The sky outside was a dull shade of gray, and the city lights had just started to come alive. I was sitting by the window, half listening to the sound of traffic below, when my phone buzzed. It was from Mom. At first, I smiled. She rarely texted me first. But the smile faded as soon as I opened the message. It said, "Don't come home tonight." For a few seconds, I just stared at the screen. I thought maybe it was a joke, or a wrong number, or maybe she sent it by accident. But deep down, I knew it wasn't. Something about the words felt heavy, deliberate, and cold. I tried calling her immediately, but she didn't answer. It rang and rang, then went straight to voicemail. I left a message, my voice shaking. "Mom, what's going on? Are you okay?" No reply. No call back. Just silence. I sat there, staring at my phone like it would suddenly explain everything. My mind was racing. We had argued 2 days ago about something stupid. She wanted me to visit for dinner, but I had a late shift at work. She said I'd changed, that I didn't care anymore. I said things I shouldn't have. I told her to stop treating me like a child. And she went quiet on the phone before hanging up. That was the last time we spoke. Now, this text. I started pacing around my apartment. Every little thing reminded me of her. The sweater she knitted for me on the couch. The picture of us from last Christmas. The smell of her favorite jasmine perfume still faintly stuck to one of my scarves. It hurt. It really hurt. I typed back slowly, my fingers trembling. "Mom, what do you mean? Did something happen?" Minutes passed. Then an hour. Then 2. Nothing. By midnight, I had called her 6 more times. No answer. I texted again. "Mom, please talk to me. I'm worried." And then, finally, my phone buzzed again. One message. "Please don't call me anymore." I froze. It wasn't written in anger. It didn't sound like her. The words were calm, quiet, almost final. Like she had already made a decision. I wanted to scream, to drive over right away, but something stopped me. Maybe fear. Maybe guilt. I just sat there in the dark, phone in hand, heartbreaking over words that didn't make sense. I didn't sleep that night. I kept replaying every memory I had with her, every argument, every apology, every hug. I remembered how she used to tuck me in when I was little, how she'd sit beside me when I was sick, how she'd wait outside my school just to wave when I came out. I remembered her laughter, the way her eyes crinkled when she smiled. And I wondered how things got so cold between us. When the first light of dawn touched my window, I made up my mind. I couldn't wait any longer. I had to see her. I threw on a jacket, grabbed my keys, and drove through the empty streets. The world felt quiet, like it was holding its breath. The drive that usually took 20 minutes felt endless. When I finally reached her house, everything looked too normal. The little plants she loved were still lined up near the porch. The curtains were half open. But something felt off. There was no sound, no radio playing, no kettle boiling, no footsteps. Just stillness. I rang the bell once. Twice. Nothing. I called out softly, "Mom? It's me. Please open the door." No response. My heart was pounding as I turned the knob. It wasn't locked. The door creaked open, and the smell hit me first, the faint scent of her perfume mixed with something else, something unfamiliar. The house was dim. I stepped inside slowly, every part of me trembling. "Mom?" I called again, a little louder. Silence. I walked toward the kitchen, and that's when I saw it. A folded letter lying on the table. My name written on it, in her handwriting. For a moment, I couldn't move. I just stood there, staring at it. My chest felt tight, my breath shallow. Something inside me whispered that whatever was inside that letter was going to change everything. I reached out, hands shaking, and picked it up, and right as I unfolded the paper, The sound of a door closing somewhere in the house made me freeze. I held the letter tightly in my hands, my heart pounding so hard I could almost hear it echo in the quiet house. The paper felt old, like she had written it days ago. Her handwriting was neat, calm, too calm for what those last messages had felt like. I unfolded it slowly and started to read. Dear Emma, if you are reading this, I need you to understand something before you get angry or scared. I didn't push you away because I stopped loving you. I did it because I couldn't bear for you to see me like this. My eyes blurred for a moment. I blinked fast, forcing myself to keep reading. I have been sick for a while now. The doctors said it's something they can't fix. I didn't want to tell you, not because I don't trust you, but because I know how you love too deeply, how you break when the people you love are in pain. I wanted to protect you from that. I thought if I pushed you away, maybe it would hurt less later. I stopped reading, my hand covering my mouth. My knees felt weak. I sat down at the table, the letter trembling in my hand. Sick? She was sick, and she didn't tell me. I read on, tears blurring the words. I know you think I've been cold. You think I've changed. But I've just been trying to make you angry enough to move on without me. I've been pretending not to care so that when I'm gone, it won't destroy you. But the truth is every night, I sit here missing you, hoping you'll text me one more time just to say, "Good night, Mom." My chest ached. I could almost hear her voice in every word. I pressed the letter to my chest, shaking, whispering her name under my breath. The sound I'd heard earlier, that faint door closing, echoed again. I turned my head sharply, calling out, "Mom." No answer. I stood up, my pulse racing, and followed the sound down the hallway. The house was dimly lit. Only soft light leaked through the curtains. I reached her bedroom door. It was slightly open. I pushed it gently. She was there, sitting on the edge of the bed, wearing her favorite blue sweater. Her eyes looked tired, but peaceful. She turned slowly, as if she already knew I was there. For a second, I couldn't speak. My throat felt dry. "Mom," I whispered, my voice cracking. She smiled faintly. "You shouldn't have come, sweetheart." "I got your text," I said, trying not to cry. "You told me not to come, not to call. What's happening? Why didn't you tell me?" She looked down, her hands clasped together. "Because I didn't want this to be your last memory of me, hospitals, doctors, tubes, fear. I wanted you to remember me cooking your favorite breakfast, not lying in a hospital bed. But I'm your daughter," I said softly. "You don't get to protect me from losing you. You're supposed to let me be there." Tears rolled down her cheeks as she whispered, "And you're supposed to live your life, not watch mine fade away." The silence between us was heavy, filled with everything we hadn't said for months. I wanted to scream, to beg her to fight, to tell her I couldn't imagine a world without her. But the words wouldn't come. Instead, I sat beside her, quietly holding her hand. She leaned her head on my shoulder, and for the first time in months, we didn't argue. We just sat there, two people who loved each other too much to say goodbye properly. After a while, she spoke again, her voice almost a whisper. "Promise me something, Emma." I looked at her, blinking through tears. "Anything." "When I'm gone," she said slowly, "don't carry the guilt. Don't let it eat you alive. I know you'll try to blame yourself, but you didn't do anything wrong. You were just living." I nodded, unable to speak. She smiled faintly, the kind of smile that looked like a memory already fading. "Good girl." We stayed like that until the morning light began to fill the room. She eventually fell asleep, her breathing slow and steady. I sat there watching her, afraid to move, afraid to wake her. When the sun fully rose, I decided to make her breakfast like she used to make for me. I went to the kitchen, trying to hold myself together, trying to believe that maybe things could still be okay. But when I came back a few minutes later, the room was silent again. Too silent. She was still sitting there, her hand resting on the letter she'd written me, but her eyes were closed, her face calm. And that was the moment I realized what her final message really meant. I stood there, frozen in the quiet room, unable to accept what my eyes were seeing. Mom was sitting so peacefully, her head slightly tilted as if she had just drifted off to sleep. For a moment, I waited for her chest to rise, for her to breathe, for her to open her eyes and tell me I was overreacting again. But she didn't. She stayed still, calm, gentle, silent. I whispered her name again, Mom, hoping that maybe saying it softly would bring her back. But the silence that followed was unbearable. I reached out, touching her hand. It was still warm, but the warmth was fading the way sunlight slips away when the evening comes. My throat closed up, my knees went weak, and I fell beside her bed. "Please don't do this to me," I whispered, my voice shaking. "I'm here now. I came back. You're not alone anymore." But she was. I held her hand tighter, trying to memorize the way her fingers felt against mine, the shape of her nails, the faint scent of her jasmine perfume that still lingered in the air. The world around me blurred, my breath hitched, and for the first time in my life, I understood what true silence meant, the kind that breaks you from the inside out. I don't remember how long I stayed there. It could have been minutes, or it could have been forever. At some point, I looked around the room, her bed neatly made, the clock still ticking on the wall, the sunlight spilling softly through the curtains. Everything looked so normal. Everything except her. That's when I saw the small blue box on her bedside table, the one tied with a faded ribbon. I opened it carefully and found her old silver locket inside. It was the one I used to play with as a child. I pressed the tiny clasp, and it opened with a soft click. Inside were two tiny photos, one of her, one of me, both smiling. Behind the photos was a small folded note that read, "So you'll never forget how loved you are." That's when I broke. Every wall I'd built over the years, every argument I thought mattered, every distance I'd created, it all shattered in that moment. She'd been saying goodbye long before I noticed. The neighbors came when they heard me crying. They made calls, whispered things, asked me questions, but I barely heard them. Everything felt distant, like the world was happening in another room. I just sat there beside her, holding that locket, whispering, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Mom." The next few days blurred into one long shadow. There were people, papers, condolences, phone calls, but nothing really reached me. I walked through it all like someone moving underwater. On the third morning, when everyone had gone, I sat in her chair by the window, the one she used to sit in every evening with her tea. Her blanket was still there, neatly folded. I wrapped it around myself, breathing in her scent, pretending for a moment that she was still here. That's when I noticed something else, an envelope tucked between the pages of her favorite book. My name again, written in her soft handwriting. I opened it with trembling fingers. "Dear Emma, if you're reading this, it means I've already gone somewhere you can't follow yet. But don't be sad for too long, my love. You gave me a reason to smile every single day, even when my body was giving up on me. I didn't tell you the truth because I wanted to remember you laughing, not crying beside my bed. I didn't want my illness to become your burden. I wanted your heart to stay light." My tears fell on the page, smudging her ink. I kept reading, my voice breaking. "You'll find things in this house that belong to both of us. Keep them. But don't keep my pain. Let me go gently, the way I let you go when you were little and ran into the world on your own. Remember, love doesn't end when life does. It changes form. I'll be in the wind that touches your hair, in the songs that make you smile, in every sunrise you'll see." I folded the letter slowly and pressed it to my heart. For the first time since she passed, I didn't feel alone, I felt surrounded by her. That evening, I went into her garden. The jasmine flowers were in bloom. She loved them more than anything. I knelt by them and whispered, "You're still here, aren't you?" The air was still, but I swear for a moment, I smelled her perfume, faint, like a memory that didn't want to fade. Weeks went by. I handled the funeral, the house, the endless sympathy messages that came and went. But every night, I'd return to that garden, sit in silence, and talk to her like she was right there. Sometimes I'd tell her about my day. Sometimes I'd just cry. One night, I couldn't sleep. I went to her room again. On the nightstand, her old phone was still plugged in. I picked it up, turned it on, and went through her messages. Most were old reminders, grocery lists, or calls she never made. But one message caught my eye, an unsent draft. It was addressed to me. It said, "I wanted to tell you something before I go. I'm proud of you, Emma. You became everything I hoped you would be. And even though I won't be there to see your future, I already know it will be beautiful." I couldn't breathe for a moment. I saved the message and whispered into the quiet room, "Thank you, Mom, for everything." Months passed. I moved back to the city, started rebuilding my life. But I took that locket everywhere I went. Whenever I felt lost, I'd hold it close, and somehow I'd feel calm again. Then, one morning, as I was getting ready for work, I got a reminder notification on my phone, an old one synced from years ago. It said, "Call Mom, Tuesday coffee at noon." I froze. My eyes filled again, but this time I smiled. I didn't delete it. I kept it there, not as a reminder of loss, but as a promise I still wanted to keep. Because somewhere I like to believe she's having that coffee too, maybe sitting by a window somewhere above, looking down, proud of the woman I've become. Sometimes I still talk to her before I sleep. Sometimes I dream of her sitting on that same bed, smiling softly, telling me everything will be okay. And when I wake up, I swear, for a second, I can still hear her whisper, "You did good, sweetheart." And that's enough for me. Because I finally understand that goodbye doesn't mean gone. It just means love found another way to stay.